But let's talk about one not so good set of numbers. Gnfc is the stock on our radar now. The company has posted a profit this time versus a loss earlier on. But what the street is disappointed with is the way their fertilizer segment revenues have declined almost 45%. And the fertilizer segment itself has posted an EBIT loss of 43 crores versus a loss of 2.8 crores earlier. So I think that's something that is worrying the street. Rajiv Kumar Gupta, the MD of the company, joins us to talk about that. Mr. Gupta, good morning. First, if you can just start off by telling us what went wrong within the fertilizer segment itself, and what does the rest of FY17 look like?
Well, yes, I'm afraid that's slightly an understatement. You have to look at the broader picture. If you look at the balance sheet and the operations and performance of the company, you will find that 1/3 of the total revenues of the company come by way of fertilizer sector, and 2/3 of profits come by way of chemicals and petrochemicals. This year, the reduction in profits of fertilizer sector has been primarily because of two factors. One has been delayed onset of monsoons, and fertilizer is a seasonal business, and therefore the offtake of urea has been comparatively less than last year. And secondly, fertilizer, again, we all know, is a regulated and controlled sector, and therefore there has been some changes in government policies. So the fertilizer revenues have come down. But what has been missed in the assessment is the extraordinary performance in the chemical sector. Gnfc has been producing 1 million tons of fertilizer, various grades of fertilizers, but 2.2 million tons of chemicals and petrochemicals. And in that segment, we have registered a whopping increase of 47% in profits. So therefore, in Q1 last year, we had registered a loss of 9.36 crores. As against that, we have registered a net profit of more than 51 crores.
Mr. Gupta, I'm going to ask you about the chemical segment as well. But, you know, the stock is down 5% today. So I thought I'll just address the concerns first. The fertilizer segment EBIT loss has gone up to almost 50 crores this time. Can you tell us what is the prognosis for the rest of the year, both in terms of revenues? You said they will improve, but by how much? And even on the profitability front, when do you see the fertilizer segment turning into the black?
Well, as I in the initial only, I said that the late onset of monsoon, now the monsoon has picked up. The offtake of urea, which was almost 35% less due to the late onset of monsoon, has also picked up. So I'm very hopeful that the fertilizer segment will do equally well as last year.
Okay, so fertilizer performance in FY17 should be similar to what we saw in FY16. Let's talk then about your chemicals business, where there's clearly been a turnaround. Any one-offs, and what is the forecast for the full year for the chemical business in terms of, you know, margins as well as profitability?
Well, I would like to explain the reasons of the turnaround. It has been done by a three-pronged strategy. One has been the sustained production and increase in production in our all plants, and especially stabilization of the toluene diisocyanate plant, which is a 2,500 crores plant, and which had a lot of problems initially. So we have sustained production in that, and more than 100% production has been achieved in that plant. Last year, in the same quarter, there has been not even a single day when the plant ran for 100%. This year, in this quarter, there has been almost 44 days when the plant has run on more than 100% capacity. In fact, we have achieved almost 135% capacity on certain days. Secondly, the expansion in exports. We used to export to almost 4 countries. Earlier, we have expanded our exports to 45 countries. From 2,000 tons of export, we have increased exports to almost 8,000 tons. And the third part of the strategy has been a very considered strategy of cost reduction, and we have saved almost 128 crores by way of cost reduction, and that speaks for those major jumps in profits in the chemical segment. And I'm quite hopeful, given the existing factors globally also, because globally all chemical factors, all chemical production, export, import and marketing is connected. Given the factors that they are existing today, we hope to do equally well in the rest of the financial year.
So, just coming back to that point you made about exports of your TDI capacity, we are seeing a lot of excess supply coming in from makers in China as well. Are you facing any kind of competition because of that? I know the industry has been asking for an anti-dumping duty on TDI, but has anything come through on that front, and are you facing a lot of competition from Chinese players?
Well, the Chinese competition definitely is there. But you would be happy to note that we have expanded our domestic market as well. Almost 35% of additional domestic market in the last 1 year we have taken. We have completely overtaken the African market. We have made inroads in the Latin American market. We have completely overtaken the Middle East market. And we are exporting as far as America. So the entire TDI business, the entire TDI scenario world over has been changed during the last 1 year by a very conscious strategy of export-based growth of GNFC.
Okay, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thanks, sir, for joining in. That's the word from GNFC. The street is disappointed by the fertilizer performance, which is why that stock is down more than 5%, offsetting the improvement that we've seen in the chemicals business. Sandeep Bagle joins in to talk about